Hello, everyone, and thank you for joining me for another restful episode of Scary Stories to help you fall asleep. If you may have noticed, I left the word true out of the title and out of the beginning of this video. That is because today we are going to be reading deep web stories / dark web stories. Due to the nature of the topic that we are going to be discussing today, it is very difficult and nearly impossible to verify whether these stories are true. However, I did try to pull from sources that could be pretty well trusted and definitely read the stories that I believe could be potentially plausible. Also, I do want to say, because of the subject matter that we are going to be discussing today, viewer discretion is strongly advised. I also want to give a little bit of a description of what the deep web is for those of you who might not know. If you do know what the deep web is and you want to skip this description, there is a timestamp that you can skip to on the screen right now. But for those of you who don't know what the deep web is, what you see on your internet when you're using your computer or your phone is only a very small portion of the internet. The deep web / dark web, usually used interchangeably, are actually two different things. The deep web refers to any website that you cannot access with a normal web browser. Usually, deep web links are opened with a web browser called Tor, T-O-R. It stands for the onion relay. So, deep web links have, instead of .com, a .onion at the end. Again, these websites cannot be accessed with a regular web browser such as Google Chrome or Internet Explorer or anything of that nature. You have to use the Tor relay. When you're using the Tor relay and you're visiting these onion sites, you can stumble across a lot of different things. You could stumble across black markets. You could stumble across conspiracy theory websites. Or you could even stumble across something as normal as a Facebook client that people in countries that Facebook is banned use Tor to access Facebook. Not everything on the deep web is scary. Some of it is very normal. Matter of fact, the deep web / Tor is used by a lot of news personnel to get information to people in countries that have banned the spread of certain information. So, the deep web does have very positive aspects to it. However, there is a portion of the deep web that is scary, consisting of things such as drug markets and black markets, hacking forums, things of that nature, and even allegedly things such as hitman sites and things of that nature. A lot of these sites are actually run by the FBI as honeypots to capture those that are trying to solicit a hitman or things of that nature. But who's to say that some of it isn't real? So, the scary part of the deep web, the part that isn't used for positivity, that is what's called the dark web. I hope that explained it. I know I didn't get very deep into it, but that's kind of the general idea. So, without further ado, lay back, relax, and enjoy these scary dark web stories. I first learned about the deep web back in grade 10, when this really strange druggy kid in my grade was going on about it. We sat together in English and had a new teacher that wasn't quite good and didn't really know how to control the class. So the last 20 minutes or so, she would just let us do whatever. Everyone around this kid's desk, let's call him Eli, would crowd around his computer and watch him monkey around on Silk Road and other weird sites that he found. No CP or anything, but drugs and hitman and weird stuff in general. I was kind of sketched out by it, so I tried to avoid looking at it all, but I listened, and it was pretty messed up. Eventually, Eli decided to order drugs from the site. This was high school, so we all lived at home. So he figured he'd order DMT to his college, go up for a weekend and pick it up to hide in his closet. So he typed in his address to some guy, worked out the details and waited. Went up to his cottage the next weekend, and we all waited for his return for the stories. Eli got back, and we all ran up to him to ask if it worked. He said it didn't, and he was really mad since he had already paid the guy. He complained to whoever was selling him the drugs, and the guy was really understanding and said that he'd send an even bigger package to his cottage. Eli went up the next weekend. Still nothing. The guy was very apologetic and said he'd send one more. Still nothing. Eli gave up and figured it was just a guy trying to make a quick buck. He gave up on the deep web, and that was that. Months later, he goes up to his cottage with his family and has a big dinner party with the whole complex of cottages. He's smooching around and overhears these elderly people talking about going to the cops. He asks why, and they tell him. They've been consistently getting shipments of drugs every week. Eli had typed in the wrong address, and the guy he was talking to had been sending more and more to the wrong people each week because he felt so bad. He was so sketched out that he quit everything, and now is doing quite well for himself. I'm proud of him. This was back before Google. Web pages were, for the most part, still very basic HTML with JavaScript. Hardly anyone used CSS. Only discussion boards and some banking sites had anything approaching mature front-end/back-end combinations, etc. Early net, real deep web story, not just one about illicit activities online. I was browsing random blogs, GeoCities sites, and the like, just going from link to link. Eventually, I came upon an odd page. It appeared to be random thoughts from different people, but for the time, it was very well designed. The messages seemed to be cryptic in nature, like several people trying to pass secret notes. I started through the source, and hidden in the comments of a JavaScript were various IP addresses. I gathered all of the IPs in a text file and began enumerating. Some were routers with banner messages I could telnet into, almost all at universities. Warning, this is a secure system at University of blah blah blah. The default Cisco credentials from back in the day worked on most of them, but I didn't poke around. A few of the IPs were web servers with little to nothing on them, mostly Apache on Linux or some BSD. At least one IIS server that I can recall. I finally came upon a web server with a huge directory of HTML files and TIFF images, with a few smaller subdirectories containing the same. NSLOOKUP returned no reverse records for the IP. A visual route traced it as far as Colorado. The HTML files appeared to be records a psychologist or similar mental health professional would keep. The images were of faxes, apparently of both military and medical nature. As I browsed from a subdirectory back to the parent, at the top was a new HTML file named something like hellothere.html. The timestamp was from right that minute. I opened it, and in plain text was the message, "We see you." No quotes, all lowercase. About 15 seconds later, the server dropped. Obviously, I'm on a throwaway. This is from way back when Silk Road 1 was still going strong. I was looking for a certain substance, but couldn't find it in my part of the world for a decent price. Posted my requests on the forum, and after a few days, someone messages me with an offer. For some reason, I accepted it and sent him around $200. Of course, I got scammed. I didn't think much of it, but posted a warning to others about this guy, saying he scammed me out of $200. A few days later, I get a message in my inbox saying something like this. "Hey, I'm a vendor, and this guy tried to scam me too. He just ordered an ounce of MDMA from me, and an ounce of sweet sugar crystals are on the way to his mailbox. Please send me your Bitcoin address and I'll send you the $200 that he scammed you out of. The next day, I had my $200 back and a deep respect for the dark web community. Honestly, the deep web is not as exciting as a lot of people make it out to be. There are plenty of hitmen, but I'm guessing 90% of them are cops or a scam. If you're looking to get arrested, there are CP links everywhere. A lot easier to find than I'd expected, but I never actually looked at them. Plenty of drugs, some guns. There are plenty of snuff films as well, but you can find that stuff on Reddit, so it's not anything special. Overall, I wasn't looking to get arrested, so I didn't do anything besides browse the hidden wiki. Fun story. I used Tor in middle school to get past the websites that were blocked so I could play Congregate. You had to enable Flash for it to work because obviously you needed it to play Flash games. But you aren't supposed to enable Flash on Tor because it allows you to be traced. I didn't really care though because I was only using it for Congregate. Okay, this is probably either one of the stupidest decisions of my life, or it may just be the only redeeming thing I have ever done. So you all know about the Silk Road, the defunct online drug market that was shut down on October 13th. The man sentenced to life for running it, Ross Ulbricht, was not the only guy who ran it. I don't think he was too involved at all. I have since moved, and the person I am talking about has gone ghost as well, so here it goes. I spent a few months dating this guy. He was considerably older than me, who was probably running the website for 80% of the time. He was always online logged in, and many times in front of me, not only used the Dread Pirate Roberts account, but also chatted with who I now believe was the Ulbricht boy. My former significant other often joked that this kid was essentially his robot and worshipped him. I know he had probably over 2,500 bitcoins at that point. I saw other things that he is stupid for flaunting, such as his conversations that he would decrypt and save to USB drives as insurance, his words, of him discussing things with police. Either he was an informant or he had them working for him. I think both. I know for a period of about 8 or 9 months that Ulbricht had not logged into the site portal because my ex-significant other became paranoid that the guy might have been arrested or killed or turned informant. He pops back up, and they start chatting like old buddies. Supposedly, he was hanging out with family and having personal problems. I don't know the specifics and have never told a soul. When they arrested this boy, my ex took off. Said he was going to visit his parents and lay low for a bit, and then abruptly vanished. I did see him as last online X hours ago on WhatsApp here and there, so thankfully he's not dead or in jail. I think. For those who might think that I could be getting him in trouble, and I'm being a B-word/vengeful rat. No, I'm not. He's not a US citizen, and is most likely not in the United States. I've always had a really sparked interest in what is commonly known as the deep web. For an explanation on the deep web that I have found to be helpful, feel free to go here. The point of this post is not, though, to act as a guide to the deep web, or to provide an explanation of what it is. This is not r/deep web or r/advice, but a place to share horror stories. And though the deep web has some good uses, it also has an incredibly dark side to it. The dark web is a small corner of the deep web, containing the stereotypical content, bulk drugs, CP, etc., that the deep web is notorious for. I took my first steps into this little excavation mine into the darkest parts of anonymous sites, under the surface of web browsing, in an attempt to undermine the stereotype that the deep web is more a home to dark, illegal websites than anything good. Well, I came out of this with more than I could have ever expected, and now my view on humanity in general has forever been changed. The start of the trip, I guess we can call it, it took me quite a while. 3 to 4 weeks to get enough information to start really delving deep into what I will now refer to as the dark web, the small corner of the deep web that is basically the house of horrors. Lots of talking around, honing information from chat rooms, and taking lots of notes. Even had to make a couple of phone calls to some more than shady individuals. Not a comfortable experience. By the end of my trek of gathering as much information as possible at the time and getting a good contact list, I took my first steps into the outer layer of the dark web, so to speak. The hard part is that once you get deeper, a lot of sites have ever-changing URLs, extensive invitation queues, and at times, pricey entrance costs that may or may not end up as cash spent on a phony operation. A lot of it is luck, meeting people at the right time and place, and taking good notes. I had a good streak of luck, and took good notes, enough to get me to the places that I entered. But what I did notice is that once I got into the first site that I will next talk about, it became much easier to get into other sites, as it was much more freely talked about, and information was passed around much more. Chat rooms in the dark web equals information honey hole. First site, Centrix. I knew I had broken the barrier when I got into Centrix. I'm just going to call it Centrix and leave out those annoying little brackets that are so annoying to type. Back on track. Centrix was one of the more well-known general markets, so to speak. A good example to compare it to would be Agartha or Silk Road. Now, Centrix, from what I hoarded via lots of questions on the chat room over the course of a couple days, has been around for about 11 months and has been untouched by any means of being shut down, which surprises me, because it has everything from Agartha or Silk Road, but to a much greater extent and a lot more variety. What some sites dedicate their whole selling product to be, Centrix had subcategories for. Just a few brief examples: snuff films, bulk drugs of all varieties, fake everything, IDs, licenses, you name it. A very censored section of CP, various illegally obtained memberships, Netflix, Hulu, etc. The list goes on. Another thing that is a bit chilling is the fact that they took a great effort to crack down on scams. The big deal on sites like Agartha or Silk Road, they have a lot of scam vendors. This site didn't, and they had a lot of proof to back it up that I will not get into detail on. Samples, intros, etc. I also met a guy in a chat room that was nice, as far as that goes for an active dark web user like himself, who verified/hashed some of the links I had collected and vaguely sent me in the direction of other sites for my personal use. This was a great help and led me to my next site, which, from the illegality and general morale of this site, is what I consider to be the next layer or gate into the dark web. The second site, brinkwarehouse.otc. Yay, a site with a normal-ish name. Brink Warehouse was actually quite fascinating. Not horrific to an extent, but had a different kind of dark backlash. Brink Warehouse, a virtual warehouse of textual guides, notes, leaked documents, torrented books. One that was released online a day after it was published. Quite a popular author. Now, at a summary, this might seem alright, but take into account that the guides included things like how to make a drone-based homemade explosive, and how to kidnap adolescents in their sleep. Illegal leaked documents galore, anywhere from United States classified cases to foreign affairs. Also included guides on illegally modifying weapons, joining terrorist groups, guides to scripting and nulling bank accounts, so on and so forth. Not a fun site. The next site I headed to is where it starts to get formally creepy, and where I found it necessary to post this here. The site with no name. I got access to this site, which I consider to be the start of the darkest of the dark web, of the deep web. Phew, that is a mouthful. From Francestern344, who was in a chat room on chit.chat, a very common deep web chat room site that most of you have probably already stopped in. Well, talk comes to talk, and we end up in the topic of snuff films, how common they are, where they usually were filmed and why, etc. I get his trust. We resumed this chat in a private room that he had, 0.1 Bitcoin for a private chat room. And keep in mind that only getting information was my main reasoning for chatting. Now, I'm not into snuff films, though they do fascinate me. We talked for a good 20 minutes before, without me even having to ask. Hooked me up with a site. We're just going to use a tidbit of the site's URL to name it, so 5611 it is. Now this site, 5611, required an invite, extensive registration, questioning, and a one-on-one meeting with what I assumed was a site director / admin. He/she was one harsh MFer, and the stern punishments for breaking the rules were laid out. The guy who invited me, Francestern344, I guess, was a long timer on 5611, who had permission to let me take a tour of the site. Now, I did ask for a formal site name for future reference, aka, so I didn't have to name it 5611, and he said that the site had no name, and that it was purely based to display its content and moderate membership. The title, he said, would only make it easier to identify, which they did not want to happen. 5611 had a small membership that, he said, the runners of the site tried to cater to very fondly, as membership is 1.588 Bitcoin monthly, approximately $355 at the time. Upon entering the site, I had to check the "Are you older than 18" box for the 5th time since I started signing up. Finally, I was in. The site's design was bland and blocky, with a pure white background and very blocky, close together writing. In the top right corner, there were the options to log out, add funds to my balance, and then a small wallet emoticon that displayed an empty Bitcoin client-side balance. But that was barely on my mind. My mind was on the center of the screen. In a single row down the center of the screen, single frames with captions and a description took up most of the screen. The top one had a still of a table with various blades and blunt weapons laid out. The title, 24-year-old female, sleeping, sug death, with a 2.25 Bitcoin price tag along the side. A timer in green text was counting down, 11:51, 11:50, 11:49. Under the timer, in the same green font, was 78 out of 100. A couple of seconds later, the 78 turned to a 79. Realization hit me in the face like a bat. This was a paid snuff site. With a shaky hand, I scrolled down through the seemingly endless snapshots and captions. One caught my eye. Quick watch. Homeless. 0.22 Bitcoin. Large view, low Q. It was like an attention-grabbing YouTube title, but it seemed to be working. In the eerie green font, 783 out of 1,000 was displayed, a jaw-dropping number in my eyes. I decided this needed to be documented, so I did a quick transaction, put 0.3 Bitcoin in my site wallet, and clicked on the arrow to enter. It took a minute or two to complete the transaction, and after about a 5-minute buffer, I was in the showing. There was no chat box, only a slightly lighter border of gray and static. The same green timer was now in the bottom right of the screen. 3, 2, 1. The square blurred, revealing a city street. What seemed to be Arabic writing was on various shop signs and advertisements. Light from a street post gave a fuzzy glow to the scene. The cameraman from the position of the camera seemed to be leaning against a wall. The shot focused on a dinky red junker on the street's curb. From the side of the camera's view, a gloved finger points towards the entrance of a dark alley, where a man lays on his side, like a breathing pile of rags, obviously homeless and alone. The finger makes a motion towards the car, and 3 men quietly exit the car and walk along the storefronts towards the sleeping homeless figure. The quality is total crap, but the scene can still be made out, and is enhancing by my horrid imagination about what is to come. About 5 meters from the homeless victim, the lanky group of thugs pull out plain white theater masks from their jackets, take out various small weapons, and pounce around the corner onto the innocent, unsuspecting victim. The camera picks up the quick shuffling of feet as the cameraman runs towards the scene, catching the thugs thrashing and stomping the man from his slumber. Cut him up. The cameraman's thickly accented voice commands the thugs, who begin to slash the victim at a wild speed, like hyenas tearing into caught prey. Blood sprays onto the wall and onto the thugs' white masks. It's horrible. My stomach barely holds on. I can't take it. Logging off Tor, I take a few more security measures and shut off my computer, taking some deep breaths and sipping from a Coors Light. My last visit on the dark web. Candy Palace. I logged on about a week later and never thought to go back on 5611. I never contacted anyone from my past sites, and I knew in my heart that this would be my last visit to any site on the deep web. I was thoroughly encouraged to not go on because of what happened with 5611. That had really been on my mind, that last straw. I had proven to myself that the dark web, even though it has some good parts, is really just a beacon of humanity's horrific actions. Conclusion: I never look at people the same. Throughout taking this research-oriented trip through the dark web, my view on humanity has been changed. Every video I watched in the name of research chinked away at my emotions, often left me crying. Curiosity broke me, and it has been nearly a year since I have fully recovered. This is my, I guess, case file for my research on this subject. Now, before you launch Tor and find these sites, please know there is nothing enjoyable, entertaining, or at all suitable content on this network. You will be left in tears. You will be scarred. And worst of all, you will never view others the same again. Please refrain from direct messaging me about this subject unless you have certain details or past experiences that you would like to privately share. I was big into Bitcoin when the Silk Road thing happened, and I got into buying certain merchandise online. The first time I was very nervous about the potential of getting caught, so I decided to have the first product sent to my office. I had it addressed generically to the IT department, and my boss, who was a good friend, was going to keep an eye on it for me. I figured this would give me enough deniability if it was intercepted. Things went very wrong. It came in, and instead of the package going to my boss, it went to his boss. Now, the company I worked for at the time is a very large behemoth with access to credit information on just about everyone in the United States. Every employee is drug tested, and we have random tests. This would be a huge issue. So I was at lunch when the package was delivered and opened. I was actually coming back when I got a call from a project manager. "Hey, so did you have anything sent to the office?" "No, nothing. Why?" "Duh, I'm not going to admit to this." "Nothing strange sent here?" "Nope." "Well, boss's boss just received a package, and it contains marijuana." Well, I had enough deniability that while plenty of people suspected me, I got off. I learned something about my boss's boss that day. He didn't tell anyone upstream about it, and rumor has it that he took it home and smoked it. Not my story, but my dad's. I don't know if it's quite dark web, but it is dark and it was on the web. My dad works in what's called name generation. Basically, he gets hired by recruiters on a project-by-project basis to call into companies with a secretive, mid to high chain of command, typically with salaries ranging from $250,000 plus, as a fake person, so they reveal the entire inner workings of the company. I can't reveal what he says, trade secret. This is for stealing away employees, general knowledge, or God knows what. This entails a lot of research to get to know the industry, and it's usually something like investment bankers, video game developers, or insurance HRs. One day, an unnamed client asked him to find out the command for a hired guns group that did work in Iraq and Afghanistan for the US during the recent wars. It was unusual, but right in the middle of the Great Recession, and work was work, so we took it and got pulled into a lot of weird places. Phone calls to stations in Afghanistan to talk with army leaders, strange websites, and worse. He even landed on a terrorist website written largely in Arabic that was a call to arms and jihad. All this searching for what was essentially military secrets, coupled with a few clicks on some radicalized Islam sites, eventually led to a single message in text popping up on his screen. It said, "Oh, so this is what you do in your spare time." No one else was home, and he was sitting at his desk as the message popped up. Needless to say, he freaked out, slammed his laptop shut, and called me, as a more tech-savvy person, to ask what happened. I was baffled. He hasn't taken a military-industrial complex job since. So this was the second time I ever visited the dark web. The first time I went there, I brought back malicious virus and infected my laptop. This time I was well prepared and did follow all instructions, like having 2 layers of VPN and a security level set to secure. From my last visit, I had found out a way to browse the dark web pretty easily. I won't share the link. It's called Tor66. Now, before we jump into the horrifying experience, allow me to clarify my purpose of visiting the dark web. See, I've been using the internet since I was 11 years old, back in 2011. I used to surf blogs and hacking tricks just to increase my internet speed, because I used 3G internet back then, which was a big thing back then. One thing, which was common in the blogs and all websites in 2011, was that the creator didn't want to engage the audience in any way. The only way to connect was to comment on the blogs, which required email login, or connecting your account to Facebook, which most of the users didn't like. They preferred staying anonymous. I was a gamer. I loved playing video games. In fact, it was all I used to do after I came back home from school. So here comes the purpose. I came across a website called filecrop.com, where you could literally find anything. Copyright was not a big issue back then, so I used to download copyrighted books and documents just out of curiosity. In 2013 or 14, the site was permanently shut down by the police department of London because of some criminal activity. Ever since, I've been searching for such websites where you could simply search whatever you want and download it in a single click, without watching rubbish ads and filling out nonsense surveys. I came to know about the dark web from one of the documents I had downloaded from the FileCrop website. I had a very slow internet connection, so I was more of a text or PDF file guy than a video or image guy. One thing was sure, that I couldn't go to the dark web with such a slow internet speed, and hence it embedded a curiosity in my mind to visit the dark web, as and when I get access to high-speed internet. So the purpose was to search for some secret documents and books which you can't find on the surface web or any listed website. If you're still curious, I was searching for hacking books. Now that you know the purpose, you'll understand why I did go to the dark web. So now let's start the story. My observation: the dark web links are much more active at nighttime, around 1 a.m. to 5 a.m. It'll load very fast, and you could even download files at very fast speed. I opened the Tor browser, and with the DuckDuckGo search engine, I was able to get the onion link of the Tor66 search engine. So I opened it, and I started searching for .text and .pdf, .epub files, basically anything in text format. I came across a very good library of the Dark Web Z library. It has almost every book you need. You only need to make an account, which you can do on its Surface Web version. The website was not allowing downloads, as my security level was set to maximum security, so I switched it to standard and reloaded. Here's how the story starts. I saw this creepy advertisement on the side banner of the Tor66 website. I don't know what was going on in my mind. Well, to be honest, I was drowsy. I needed a nap, quick, because it was somewhere around 2 to 3 a.m., so I was not fully conscious. I was redirected to a really creepy website. Just trying to describe it sends shivers down my spine, but I'll try. It was a collection of murder clips, real violence, and other stuff that I don't really want to talk about. The good news was to watch any video of the website, you'd have to create an account and pay some bitcoins to register as a member. But the bad news was that it had some preview clips on the homepage, which were all graphic violence, basically killing videos shot by the murderers themselves. There were no thumbnails, so I clicked one of the videos and it opened. It was shot by a man who was holding a knife, and his buddy had a gun. He shot a random woman standing in front of them, and after that both of them started cutting her ears and hand. The second guy grabbed the ear with a paper, and the video ends. I don't want to describe anything about the website anymore. I just couldn't watch it. Well, who could, unless he's a psychopath? That day, I realized the actual reason why the dark web is not the safest place for sane people. It's full of criminal activity. And yes, some websites put preview video clips of such disturbing activities just to lure you into becoming a member. It destroyed my mental peace for days, and I couldn't stop thinking about that video. This is the side effect of the dark web. Don't ever open it out of curiosity, because you never know what might pop up in the ads and mess up your mental peace for years to come. Well, I'm glad that I'm not a faint-hearted person, thanks to the incidents from my past. But imagine if a faint-hearted person watches the same clip randomly. I'm pretty sure that they'd get a heart attack or something. In the end, I'd say life is much safer and more peaceful on the surface web if you're not interested in politics and news. If you use the internet for knowledge, then you don't need to worry, be it surface web or the dark web. So please don't open dark web after reading this post. It's not a place to hang out. If you want to read uncensored texts and free speech, then I'd recommend using the dark web libraries, and please restrict yourself to text-only content. I'm not responsible if you do something stupid on the dark web after reading this post. It's your life. Make it large. Until then, peace. There was a site on the dark web where an admin used to be live for some time, and that site was made for providing all kinds of links to various crazy sites. He used to look at the live chat and responded to a few. I, along with my friend, was just looking at what people were asking for. Believe me, for 1,000 chats, nearly 900 people were asking for CP. I was so shocked about what kind of pathetic people live on this planet. Nobody knows what is hidden inside the hearts of people. Those people who are looking for CP was the bone-chilling for me. Yes, there are some other bone-chilling things like ISIS putting on live Shia killings on the dark web. They cut their throats and hang their heads. If I post those pics, you might say that yes, that is bone-chilling. But I didn't capture those images, and most of those dark websites don't work anymore. But believe me, people who are desperate to see CP, or some were looking for R wording too, is really bone-chilling for me. One more thing is, yes, he provided those pathetic people with some CP sites. Now believe me, among the people who will read this answer, some of them would be thinking about getting those links or that live chat link from me as well. Why? You know why. Dual/multi-faced people we are. So there is a lesson to be learned from this, which is, people on this planet live with dual or multi-faces. So we should deal with humans with less expectations and be cautious in every form and every time. Yeah, I'm a human too, so the lesson applies to me as well. I've been using Tor for a few years now. I've had it for a few years anyway. I usually use it only when I can't find certain ebooks on the normal people internet. So this one time I was messing around and in a directory listing for useful dark web sites, I found an online service site that claimed to deal in killers, weapons, stolen things, and other stuff. Needless to say, I was fascinated with it. I've seen regular e-commerce websites, and I wondered how similar ones that exists mostly for illegal activities would look. So as it loaded, I got a pop-up from Tor saying that it had prevented the website from using this function and that. Suddenly, my webcam light lit up. It was the crappiest jump scare ever. Here I am, trying to look at a website which is probably operated by some criminal organization, and for all I know, they have my face stored away somewhere for reference in the compilation of future kill lists. I command queued the crap out of Tor, and kept doing it after it had closed too. This would have been in 2014, and I just avoided Tor for the next 2 years or so, until I needed to download Foundation's Edge, I think, which I could not find anywhere else. Since that incident, I have never again ventured away from a few websites, such as the Imperial Library of Trantor and Project Gutenberg. In hindsight, it could have been, and probably was, something else, because Google Chrome and Skype were both open as well. But you always get that ring whenever someone Skypes you, and I'm mostly certain my computer was not on mute, because I always listen to iTunes while messing around on the internet, or doing anything that doesn't have audio itself. So I continue to steer clear. I was very curious about the dark web about 2 years ago. I found out how to access it. I downloaded a Tor client on my smartphone and spent like 30 minutes trying to figure out how to surf it and not get bombarded with ads and such. The dark web is really hard to navigate. There is no Google for it. If the dark site can be found with a dark search engine, then it isn't that bad. Just a bunch of illegal stuff. Everything costs money though. Anything worth hiding on the dark web is worth a few bucks of cryptocurrency apparently. Well, I hadn't had any bitcoins for a few years. I had pulled out. So the only thing available for free was text. So what rabbit hole did I fall into, you may ask? I completely read a human cookbook. It was well written. No spelling or grammar mistakes, and no fluff. It was matter of fact. It had everything from how to stalk your victims, to which age/gender tasted better, to text-based butcher portions, to how to gather and cook the blood, how to host a human steak party, to the more cruel way of keeping your victim, alive and fresh, while you ate a limb a week. It was way more gross than I'm willing to write here. I was both disgusted and intrigued. I couldn't sleep that night, and for the next few weeks, I couldn't look at any strangers in public for more than 2 seconds before the words came flushing back into my memory. My brain told me, she would be the perfect candidate for a meal. Or, why is she walking alone in this area? Doesn't she know that she's the perfect age for human steaks? It was horrible. I have never used the dark web personally, but someone I know had a very horrible experience using it. So, I am sharing the story with you, so you can stay aware, and you do not make the same mistake. Someone told my friend that a collective item of a superhero is being sold on the dark web. He was excited as he was getting the product at a discounted price. He's a superhero enthusiast who quickly went to the dark web to purchase this item. As many people claimed, it's a secure platform for buying things. He visited the website, ordered the article, and paid. Making the payment online was his biggest mistake, primarily because he used his credit card. He told me that after completing the transaction, he got a debit message. But after a few hours, he got another debit message for a transaction worth Rs 90,000. He contacted the bank, but could not get the money back and had to pay the complete money himself. He didn't even get the product which he had ordered. He even told me that he still sometimes gets random one-time passwords for a different transaction. So, even when you get reasonable offers on the dark web, it is unsafe and you must avoid using it. I've probably told all of my deep dark web stories that would be interesting to the average person, to be honest. I've been using Tor for almost 3 years, as well as other similar networks like I2P and Freenet, which fewer people use to my knowledge. The spookiest thing that happened to me was that one time I was looking at a site that claimed to be a red room. You know, the ones where supposedly people are murdered on a live stream. The reason I look at these at all is usually to debunk them. The site was very plain looking, just a gray background with white text and a login form. At the bottom was a contact email for the admin. I wrote to the email via SIGAINT email, and we messaged each other back and forth for a bit. I asked him the usual questions about what his site had to offer, how much it costs, etc. After our interaction, I figured that this site, like the others, was a scam. I took to my dark web blog and wrote about it, and outed the site as a scam. What happened next, I didn't expect. The admin emailed me again and he was very angry. He listed a whole bunch of my personal information as a threat, including my name, my wife's name, where I lived and where I worked. Was I scared? Yes, a little. For a while, I took down the blog post, but after a time, the site disappeared, and I hadn't heard anything else. I've since put it back up again, and nothing has happened. What I learned was that I shouldn't make enemies, if at all possible, on Tor or anywhere else. Since then, I've made quite a few friends. Seriously. What's the darkest point of the dark net that you have explored? It depends what you mean by darkest, but I'm going to assume that you mean dark content as in disturbing. To be honest, compared to most of the horror stories, the dark web is rather underwhelming, and I include all of the networks that I've used in that. Tor, I2P, Freenet, and ZeroNet, plus others. There are many, many dead sites, i.e. they will be on a link list, but the site itself is down. Anyhow, you wanted to know the darkest thing I'd seen? Well, when I first joined Tor, I happened upon a site called the Cruel Onion Forum, which was a site geared towards the sexualized killing of animals. That, to me, along with anything involving child abuse, is reprehensible. I'm an animal lover, so I find it hard to comprehend how someone could treat animals that way, particularly just for their sadistic enjoyment. I imagine that the people who watch such things have probably been abused themselves in some way, which is the only way I can explain it, not trying to justify it. More recently, I came across a site called PsychoTube, which is somewhat like the YouTube of Tor. The difference is that it features mostly videos of gore and real killings, very much like some of the videos on LiveLeak. Strangely, the videos didn't affect me that much, because I've seen such things before. Maybe it all depends on what you're accustomed to. Other than that, the darknet isn't all that exciting, if you're just looking for disturbing stuff. People talk about things like red rooms, but I'm 99% sure that they're just an urban legend. I may update this if I encounter something that tops everything. Well, when I visited the deep web, I was mostly visiting the hacking/cybersecurity part. Interesting to see how people go about hacking various things, and it was really educational. Yes, there are people buying and selling zero-day exploits, etc., but it's mostly social engineering. Anyway, the scariest thing that I saw was a hacker advertising a service where he was willing to upload CP onto someone's computer and report them to the police as a form of taking someone out. Well, actually, the scariest part was discovering that there were at least 2 people in the chat room that I was in discussing about kernel security who had used that service. I decided to stick to more regular forums afterwards. So this may seem like a nebulous answer, but the real scary stuff is the portals. By that, I mean little doors hidden from everyone except the people who know what they are looking for. Seemingly innocuous sites that have clues hidden in the page's source code, or seemingly innocent image galleries containing images that have audio clues, or other things embedded in the code that have to be extracted through specific means. When I was in college, the guy who got me into computers used to show me the ones he had cracked. One of them led to a PDF that was a copy of the original Anarchist Cookbook, first edition, before it was heavily edited and stripped down. It had stuff in there including detailed chemical breakdowns of military-grade explosives, way deeper than just your typical, this is how you build a weapon stuff. There were other, more sinister portals too. There was one that just led to a chat room that he showed me that was some kind of ultra-cult LARPing stuff, except they would share ASCII image scans of a super messed up stuff, like snuff-level violence, that you could really only see if you copy-pasted the code into a word editor and scaled it in a certain way. Lots of bizarre hacker wizardry, and some of it is creepy AF. I've seen a lot of things on the deep web, but most of the stuff that people associate with the deep or dark web are just myths, like red rooms. They don't exist and couldn't exist because of the slow data transmission. The scariest things are, in my humble opinion, the creepy crypto puzzles that you can find if you just look for them. They're meant to attract very smart individuals, but sometimes I just can't help but wonder what happens to the people who manage to actually solve them. Someone asks, what was the worst thing you ever did on the dark web or the deep web? Thank you for asking this question. I had to really think about this because most people ask, what's the worst thing you've seen or heard on the dark web? Not did. Well, I hired a hitman, paid to see a red room, bought and sold narcotics and guns, and stole people's money. Just kidding. No, I never did any of those things. Although I've come across quite a few sites that claim to do all of these. Come to think of it, I have talked to a lot of people. Perhaps the worst thing I did was talk to some people in chat rooms that I would not want to meet face to face. I've mentioned this on some previous answers, but it seems that the chat rooms on Tor, and on a few other dark nets, are some places where you can potentially meet the worst of the worst. Conversations sometimes go like this. Person 1. Hey guys, guess what? I just murdered someone. Person 2. Really? Got pics or videos? Person 1. Yes, I do. 0988487.jpg. Person 2. Dang, that's awesome. Got any others? Person 1. I've got lots, but you'll have to pay. Here's another sample. My kids in cages. Person 2. I will pay. You're the best. Bear in mind that I'm making this conversation up, but people do say these kinds of things. Now, I didn't actually talk back to any of these folks, and at the time I couldn't, because in order to participate, you'd have to upload images of some sort, and not the kind that you find on the regular internet. That's not something I possess, nor would I ever want to. I suppose, compared to the things some other people have done, this isn't that bad. My biggest crime is curiosity. My worst experience associated with the darknet occurred recently when I spoke with my fellows on a forum, and one of them gave me a link saying, "It'll be interesting." Going there, I saw a site with a full set of ISIS videos, in which gunmen are killing prisoners, or playing football with human heads instead of a ball, and so on. I do not know what could be worse, and for what purpose they publish it. After all, an ordinary person will not experience anything but disgust when they see that. and a person who has the power or ability to influence the situation in Syria will only go mad and make the situation in their home country even worse. I cannot understand. This happened last year. I was really curious what the actual deal was with this dark or deep web stuff. So I went to YouTube to watch a tutorial on how to access the dark web using Android, and I planned on surfing the dark web using my phone. I didn't know what I was up to, but I was way too curious and excited, so everything was set. I covered my phone camera with tape, went to my room and locked it, opened the Wikipedia site for dark web links. Everything was cool, and I went to those normal happy chat sites. I didn't text, I just observed. So you see, I gained some confidence and opened this one creepy anonymous confession site. I swear, you guys, my faith in humanity vanished away after reading some of the confessions there. Some people commented on how they killed their wife, mom, daughter, and neighbor. Some commented on how they tried to kill someone and failed and how they regret it. Some commented how they love when they see people suffer, and some graphic things were written over there which I honestly don't want to write here, as I'll definitely get blocked after writing them. Some more mentally ill creepy people were there commenting how stupid people are for loving someone and for not doing bad things to them. So I had enough of all this, but still I wasn't done. I wanted to see as much as I could. So yeah, I went and opened up those community chat links. It took a while to load the site. While it was loading, I thought maybe it was all fake, and maybe this site is also fake. But then boom, I saw this site full of texts from sick people. I can say they were ill, or maybe they weren't human. I don't want to explain any of the things from over there, as again, I may get blocked. The next thing I did was went to this site. I don't remember what the site's name was, but I do remember that it was selling things made out of human skin and organs. They were costly. I almost threw up, so I closed that site. I now went to those sites selling guns, drugs, and many other illegal things. It was boring for me, so I decided to stop and close everything and delete all the browsing apps and sleep listening to my favorite songs. I wasn't able to sleep for 2 days straight. Everything felt horrible and ugly. But after 4 to 5 days, things went to normal. I was using WhatsApp texting my friends, and then I got this notification ding. Someone texted me on WhatsApp. It was an unknown number. It was an international number. I opened the text, not thinking much of it, and saw this creepy message. Why are you ignoring me? I got a little tense, as I don't have any friends from abroad, and maybe it was a scam. I ignored it, and the next day I got another text from that same number saying, "You can't ignore me. I'm still here. You can't run away." I was now pretty sure that things got out of hand, and I almost believed that I was going to die. I quickly blocked the number and told my close friends about what happened and about the dark web. One of my friends said the same thing also happened with him last year when he surfed the deep/dark web. He said that he blocked the numbers, but soon started getting creepy, deadly calls. So he changed his number and life was good again. So now here I was, a messed up teenager. I was out of breath. I was afraid to tell my mom or dad about this, but I tried to control it by myself. The next day I got another text on WhatsApp from another unknown international number saying, "Why did you block me? You can't do anything now." Now it was clear that someone just got my number through hacking. I quickly blocked that number too, and reported it, and deleted WhatsApp, and deactivated all of my social accounts. After a week, I came back and now everything was cool. But the next week I got another text from an unknown international number on WhatsApp itself. So yeah, I was not afraid enough, and I decided to not open the chat and blocked it quickly, reporting spam. After that, nothing happened, and I promised and swore to God and myself that I am never ever going back there. Even if someone were to offer me money for surfing the dark web, I would never go back there again. My life is more important to me. Thank you so much for listening to the stories in this video. I hope you enjoyed them. If you did enjoy them, please leave a comment down below letting me know that you like this type of content, so I can maybe do more dark web videos in the future. I hope you have an excellent night's sleep, and enjoy the extra rain at the end. Good night, everybody.